this become this. One word, and that word is neglect. When you abandon a house, or anything for that matter, for a period of time, it does not stay the way it does, it decays. That is the second law of thermodynamics, the law of entropy or decay. Marriage is also a system. Marriage is also a thing where if you don't put energy into it, it only goes in one direction, and that's downhill. How are marriages being neglected? Well, from as early as the first 3 years. Alright? As early as the first 3 years, when the couple has a child, the couple forgets to play the role of husband and wife. They are focused, maybe even obsessed, with being father and mother. Their world revolves around the child. Their conversation is about the child. Did you buy the milk? Have you paid the bills? Oh, by the way, your mother called. And from that point on, the marriage takes a dip. Dr. John Gottman, who is an expert in marriage and relationship, has found this to be so, that a marriage satisfaction dips within 3 years of the arrival of a child. Now, if you superimpose that against the statistics in Singapore, you'll find that to be not coincidental, but it is explanation of why the highest rate of divorce in Singapore happens among those married between 5 and 9 years. It's not a coincidence. So I want to tell you the reason for divorce, and that is neglect. It's not about communication breakdown, it's not about lack of intimacy, it's not about marital affairs. All these are symptoms of the root problem, which is neglect. I also want to tell you about other reasons, all right, for marital breakdown. And these are not my words. This comes from Dr. John and Julie Gottman. They are the gurus of marriage and relationships. Ask anyone who studies psychology, social science, and things like that, they would have studied his work. 40 years of studying over 3,000 couples in what he calls the Love Lab, based in the University of Washington in Seattle. He has a reputation of being able to predict whether a couple would end in divorce in the next 5 years with 95% accuracy just by watching them interact for 15 minutes. Now, if you're afraid to have lunch with Nigel because he might read your mind, I think you would not want to have lunch with this couple because they're going to tell you your future, right? Okay? Yeah. But that's his reputation. It's scientifically proven, by the way. All right? That's how good he is. That's how thorough and, verifiable his research has been. So I'm going to share with you. He found 6 predictors of divorce. I'm going to share with you one. But this one has part A, part 2, part 3, part 4. Okay? All right? He calls them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And they are criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling. Let's start with criticism. What does it sound like? Well, criticism basically has the you in it. Oh, you are so lazy. You are so slow. You are always and you never. So, the definition of criticism is a verbal attack on somebody's personality or character. It's an attack. And therefore, Dale Carnegie says there is no such thing as a constructive criticism. You can give constructive feedback, but criticisms are an attack on someone's character or personality. Now, when you feel under attack, what's the instinct? What would you want to do? yes, you want to defend yourself, right? And so the next horseman is defensiveness, where you will want to defend yourself. And what's the best form of defense?
Counter-attack.
Offense, right? And so criticism begets criticism. And so it becomes a table tennis match. And it never ends, right? And that's how this becomes one of the predictors of divorce. So defensiveness happens when you feel under attack, or there's a threat of being attacked, verbally, emotionally, or otherwise. You would want to defend yourself. This was something posted on one of the Facebook groups that I joined for couples. Actually, the couples do not join in, only one of the couples joined in. Alright, this happens to be a wife, and she wrote, "How can I stop my toxic traits and become a better wife for my husband? I'm struggling to stop being defensive and unaccountable during conflicts. It is already killing my less than 1 year marriage." Can you imagine that? Less than 1 year. I feel so bad about it. So I replied, I talked about defensiveness, and I said, there must be a reason why you feel the need to defend, all right, and things like that. So it's happening, it's real. And I think by now you realize we all do that. We are all masters of criticism, aren't we? Contempt, you know who this guy is, right? Contempt is when you roll your eyes. Contempt is when you see another person less than you, less than yourself, right? And therefore you feel this person is not worth my time, my attention, my love, my praise, anything. Because this person is less than I. Okay? And so you begin to attack, you begin to neglect, you begin to even insult and become sarcastic about that person. You begin to be sarcastic in front of people, friends, about your partner. This is the greatest killer, actually. Of all the four husbands, this is the most potent. And finally, stonewalling. I don't know if you have done stonewalling before. We usually do it unconsciously. Stonewalling is when you zone out, right? Your husband or wife is bringing up an issue. He says, let's talk about it. And in your mind, you're saying, we've talked about it 1,000 times. And we've never been able to resolve it. We've never come to a conclusion. Why bring it up again? And so while your spouse is talking about it, you are staring into space, looking to your phone, or doing something, watching TV. Right? You're zoning out, you're stonewalling. Why? Because it's too emotionally painful and unpleasant. And so you find a way of escape. And the escape is stonewalling. You disengage from the conversation, you disengage from your partner. Withdrawing so as to avoid the conflict. Because when you engage, there will be good conflict and you don't want that. Alright? So those are the four horsemen. I want to share with you this research. This research is not about marriage, but it's about cancer. But I'll show you the relationship. Just last year, a study was published, and it found that 40% of cancer deaths, that means people who die from cancer, all over America, 40% of them were actually preventable. Why? Because all the risk factors for developing cancer leading to death are known. And so in this research, they said that if a person only does a few things, very simple things like don't smoke, don't drink alcohol, be more active, and don't put on too much weight. Simple things like this, of course there are a couple of things more, this person will be able to avoid cancer and avoid dying from cancer. 40%. So imagine the thousands and thousands of people in America who die from cancer each year. This is about 2019. Shouldn't have died. Shouldn't have died. They would be still alive today. Alright? So what does this got to do with marriage? In the same way that the causes of cancer are known, and by the way, if you're thinking DNA plays only less than 5% part in the cause of cancer. Only less than 5%. Alright? In the same way that all the causes of cancer are known, all the causes of divorce are known. And if they are known, they are preventable. There are antidotes to it. Alright? And so, 40%, if I may make a guess, 40% of divorces every year are preventable. And that's why I'm in this business, because I believe and I want to see every marriage succeed. And I believe they can. I believe that every marriage can work, must work, and will work with some help. So let's work towards avoiding divorce so that every marriage succeeds. And Preacher Jane just talked a lot about children. That's my concern too. I not only want the husband and wife to be happy, I want the children to be happy. I don't want them to go through what I did, because at 10 years old, my parents went through a divorce. It messed up my life for the next 25 years. And I'm one of the few lucky ones who made it out, who recovered, who was restored, and now I'm able to talk to you like that. Not hurt, not perfectionistic, not angry. So I want to help the children too, alright? And I hope you will work with me on that. So if your marriage is still okay, or you know somebody whose marriage is still okay, what they need is marriage mentoring to keep them on track. But if your marriage is heading towards the iceberg of divorce, my track record has been that in 3 sessions, I will be able to help you steer clear of that iceberg. And then continue working with you to repair, to rebuild, and to restore. Alright? Thank you very much.